has something to share in either wisdom, story, or logic. And it's clearly amazing to hear all the differing missing links discovered by people unique to their own journeys and in how they have come to discover them. Together, we can help to build a bigger picture for a better future, for a brighter tomorrow. Let's stand united. Let's remove the veils and let's create a new world together. Are you that missing link? Join Jesse Hale on the Missing Link Talk Show as he helps to unveil the mystery through the unique wisdom and store of others.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome everybody here back to the Missing Link. Today we're excited to talk with a fellow Canadian, someone who talks about the 17 levels of consciousness, Dave Shearer from the Truth Center. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm really good, Jesse. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. So why don't you start off with telling us about yourself, telling us about your journey, maybe what part of the world you're in now, what part of the world you grew up, a little bit about your background, education, anything you want the audience to know more about you and your journey, especially if they're hearing you here for the first time.
Yeah, well, I can say that there's an interesting parallel with my journey in that we are motivated to make changes only really when pain or something jostles us out of our regular routine, you might say. And so, excuse me, in my case, in my early life, having found out that I was adopted, it caused me a great level of pain. Some people, not so much. Some people, yes. And so that essentially sent me on a search for truth and understanding, like why, how is it that was, brought onto me. And so that's kind of the overview of what launched me into a lifetime search for truth that has culminated in what you see behind me now, which is our Truth Center. Now, that search for truth went through all of the major world religions. I looked into Sufism, Buddhism, raised in a fundamental Christian Anglican household, didn't quite register as truth to me. So then I was left to search far and wide. That search ended up in 1998 when an individual gave me a book, and that was the start of actually 3 books that completely filled in the big picture for me as far as who we are as humanity, why we're here, where we're heading, and most importantly, the destination, which has been revealed to me as a condition known as light and life. People call it the Great Awakening. It's the same thing, that this is a definitive procedure since March of 2020 that is has with it also great pain because you can't make changes to a system that has been systemically run by falsehood without pain. So that's kind of the long and short of it. There's 2 benefits that come out of the information that's behind me. One is the disassembly of falsehood and the understanding of what falsehood is and how it is applied in our society. And the second thing is like I say, there are 3 books that has contributed to my understanding of what is reality and why effectively we're going through this. Now, I can step back a little bit to 1988, which was one of the significant findings in my life, in that my wife and I, married in 84, found ourselves having a child in 88 when my wife recalled she was prompted by a nurse to look into vaccination. And so we thought in 1987, well, maybe we should just do that since we're about to have a new baby. And so what happened in 1987, without the internet, I might add, is that we had available to us 3 books. And So these books were all we had, plus a thesis from a lady from UBC. And so we did just that. We looked into it. That's the best information I could find at the time. And we made the definitive decision to not choose vaccination for our children based on several aspects from that information.
Congratulations.
So we basically kept it to ourselves to a large degree and spoke with it the odd time. But what happened was when March of 2020 hit, and I had taken my wife out to dinner in Penticton here, and we found all of a sudden that everything was to be locked down. They were canceling conventions. The waitresses didn't know whether they're going to have a job. And initially, it registered with me right here that we got some serious falsehood before us. The masks hadn't come out yet. They came out shortly after. That's when we put a sign on our store based on our research that masks are recommended they be prohibited in our store. And so that, of course, caused a bit of fury. We got reported to 3 news outlets. I had 3 interviews with them on one day, and that actually played well for us in the end, because people saw through the us being thrown under the bus by the news outlets. And so essentially what happened was in 1988 we recognized that vaccines were dangerous, but we weren't able to define if somebody came up to us and said, well, you've got to do it for the common good. And so I still wouldn't have vaccinated my children and put them into the possibility of encephalitis, which was one of the responses from the vaccination at that time. So the great thing about March of 2020 and my intuitive response was that I had to go home and try and figure out why this intuitive response was correct. And what happened was a mountain of information came out of it. Now, the only reason this information sits behind me is because as a public display is because different from 1988, this information being that we were drawn into the whole mix, whereas before we just kept to ourselves and kept to our life. Being that we were drawn into the mix, then our information became publicly available in case anybody else needed the information, essentially to protect themselves and provide peace and clarity. And so that's kind of the long and short of it. The Truth Center, a lot of the Truth Center information I've thrown on our company website because it was the quickest, easiest way to do it. We don't market anything from there or make profit from it. And essentially, we believe the truth should be free. So it's available to anybody if they wish that protection. So the only other thing to add at this point is that my wife and I have never worn a mask in the 3 years. In anywhere we've gone, we've had about 2 or 3 refusals in those 3 years. But other than that, we've walked freely and nobody has actually challenged us. The phenomenon that works there is that, as in keeping with 1988, nobody challenged us back then. Nobody challenges us now because we have the information here. And if anybody's wishing a 2-hour conversation on why we took our stand that way, then we're open to that discussion.
Yeah, that's amazing. I didn't wear a mask the whole time either. And I didn't get any. It was the very first month when my mom was really afraid. So whenever I was with her, she really wanted me to have one on. So I did put one on with her. But otherwise, the entire time, and I'm in Calgary, and between Calgary and Edmonton, I didn't have any issues anywhere I went except for an organic store and a pot store, which those are 2 places you'd think that they'd be a little bit more open-minded, but maybe because of that industry, they're a little bit more scrutinized, a little more eyes on them. I'm not sure, but those are the only 2 places. When in all Costco's, nobody ever said anything except for one time the guy's like, you need a mask. And he handed it to me. I just put it right in my pocket and just kept going. Right. And so that was the only time I had any issues at all. And I haven't been, when I stopped eating meat 6.5 years ago, or a little over 6 years ago, I haven't had a cold or a flu since. And, I didn't get sick, didn't wear them. I call them breathing inhibitors because I don't really think that they're masks. Masks have air holes going in and out, like it's more of, even like a Halloween mask, you have the air holes in, you have the air holes out. It's not a breathing inhibitor where it's holding in your breath and your oxygen. So yeah, I'm right with you. And, I didn't get sick with this, whatever this is. I know people that have been extremely sick, people that haven't gotten the jabs, that have been, even hospitalized with whatever this crazy cold or flu is. But any thoughts on what this is? Because some people believe that there isn't even a virus when other people have gotten extremely sick and had to be hospitalized because of the cold or the flu. So any thoughts on what this is that we've been living through?
Well, absolutely. We are living in a toxic environment. People don't want to really come to that realization because it's the very fabric of our society is built on this sort of false presentation of safety and security, when in fact entities like the FDA and such are nothing but bought and paid institutions. That's some of the truth that has been coming out all along. I also am not a meat eater and have found that to be way more beneficial in the operation of my own physiology, for instance. And so there's a natural gravitational pull to truth, you might say, and that's one of them is that. The toxins that are concentrating in meat now are a significant consideration in avoiding falsehood and moving to truth. And so the only problem is that a lot of people are vested by way of their professions and their academic training in procuring falsehood, whether it be by way of the false virus and vaccination program, as you mentioned, or whether it's the promotion of meat and dairy, or whether it's the production of glyphosate that has taken over the planet. I mean, there's in between 80 and 130,000 chemicals, environmental toxins that we deal with possibly on a daily basis, depending upon where you reference your information. So the cold flu program that you're speaking of is, as mentioned, nothing more than a detox program. I did watch your Amanda Vollmer interview. If anybody needs to, they can refer to that. We don't need to reiterate the whole detox program because she does a very good job of that. And essentially the information that's behind me is the foundational research that states that in 1866, the proof came out for the very first time by way of visual evidence and scientific registration in the French Academy of Sciences that the exogenous pathogenic microorganisms or viruses are actually non-existent. And that was by way of Professor Pierre-Jacques Antoine Béchamp, and many others have reiterated and confirmed his information since, including most notably Gaston Naessens. You can go to the website that I have there and choose the video page, and you will see the clear representation of the somatid cycle by way of micrographs from Gaston Naessens that give you the big picture that the things that we've been previously led to think are pathogenic, such as the bacteria that's in our body, and even the fungi and the yeasts, they are actually generated within our body by way of Naessens evidence that you can clearly see on his micrographs. And so, yeah, so it's the cold and flu is nothing more than a detox. But there's no money to be made in telling people that you're detoxing from the toxins that you've been ingesting and exposed to when you can have another story of either a virus or, of course, the gene that Bruce Lipton has removed from the equation with his research in epigenetics.
Yeah, there's no money in people not being afraid to get sick. And I think that's the big thing is if you're afraid to catch something, you're afraid to get something, then you're willing to take those recommendations to do what it's necessary to not get what you're getting. But the crazy part is that they make you afraid of catching a certain virus, but yet you allow them to inject that thing that you're deathly afraid of catching. You let them inject that into you. It just seems a little bit crazy, but that's the reality that we're currently living in.
Yeah, and you've kind of segued into David Hawkins' research. If you want to bring up the 17 levels of consciousness, we could touch on that because this is bona fide evidence to debunk what you have just illustrated, and that is the fear generation tactics of the agenda that's before us. It's been that way for my whole lifetime, and since 1866 with when Béchamp registered his information. And so essentially David Hawkins came out with the formalization of the fear campaign. And it's interesting to note that this document that he assembled is by way of muscle testing. Now, muscle testing is a way to tap into the intelligence of the universe. It is a technique that was used in the 1980s. I remember a naturopath I had back then that used it. Since then, it has been the practice of naturopathy has been sort of taken over where I don't think they use it anymore. And again, that's another topic in itself. But Dr. John Diamond actually came out with muscle testing initially, and then David Hawkins picked up the flag and assembled the 17 levels of consciousness. The line that you see there in red is the definitive point where everything below it is based on falsehood, and you're actually sucking from society when you take up those positionalities, and everything above it is based on truth, and you're actually contributing to society. Now, this isn't meant to criticize or condemn anybody. A lot of times we've been driven to these positions, like you mentioned, that there's a fear campaign out there. And when it comes to guilt and fear and shame, and even anger and things like that, oftentimes we're driven into it. As I mentioned in my case, with my early life experience, I had to deal with the pain and loneliness that I felt from the information I was given as a young child. And at that point, we have there's actually two choices that we have as human beings. We can either internalize that pain and suffering, or we can push it out. When we bring it inside, then we create damage and physiological repercussions from that procedure. And when we push it out, as I did, it gets displayed as a sort of a socially acceptable anger, you might say. And so in any case, it's all based on falsehood and a lack of understanding of the situation. And so in the case of fear generation, it's easy for us to debunk that. The information, like I said, is right behind me, that the virus does not exist. And the information from Béchamp and many others, including the suppression of that information, is out there. And it's coming forth now in a greater and faster fashion because this is a natural result of the promotion of, you can use the word evil. It's a natural promotion of falsehood, essentially, that has made the social structure and the financial capabilities of these situations, and that drives our society. So debunking these lower emotions, like I say, it's fairly easy to do. In some cases, we're dealing with early life circumstances, which complicates the situation. But we're at a time now where the accelerated emergence of truth is actually providing energies for us if we are willing to accept that. And those energies are there to allow us to dig down and resolve the inner possible workings of our life that were instilled many times in our early years. And it's a complicated situation because you've got the fear generation campaign from the outside, and then you've got your early life reckoning, you might say, to be dealt with as well. Some of us are lucky enough not to have that early life reckoning, but the drive to substance abuse and other things are indicators for us that we are covering up these early life patterns that have caused us trouble and pain, oftentimes from a karmic predisposition. But in any case, it's something that we have the ability now in a greater way based on emerging, elevating human collective consciousness to deal with these things. And when we do, then we are stronger to stand up with the natural unity movement that's occurring now and will never stop. And we can contribute in a greater way when we've also cleaned our own house. And again, I don't wish to be judgmental on that. It's just something that we've all been either thrust into or coerced into, or by way of our own karmic predisposition. And it's just something that we can all come together and resolve by way of collective human consciousness, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, totally. And what you said about, them going away from natural medicine. So that was, over 100 years ago, the Rockefeller Foundation paid the American Medical Association $100 million for them to just do allopathic medicine and not give any grants, not give any funding, not giving any scholarships to anything with natural medicine. That was kind of what their deal was. And so what our natural healing, our herbs and things that we used for hundreds, if not thousands of years, were now considered alternative. And it's crazy because that's what we've normally used. And this new allopathic, oil-based drug medicine, a synthetic drug medicine, was alternative. That was alternative to what real healing was. And, when you mentioned about, the trauma, so most drug addictions are from people that have had some type of trauma in their life, because you can take, 100 people that go through some type of level of, say, they break their leg where they need to go on painkillers, they severely injured themselves. Out of 100 people, that go on these painkillers, 90 of them have no problem just once their pain is done, stopping those painkillers, and they're just moving on with their life. But there's 10% of those people that start those painkillers, which all of a sudden they feel some type of soothing sensation for some of the trauma that they've gone through, which in turn it leads to more, need for covering up that pain or that trauma that they have inside, which now they become addicted to these painkillers or start on the path of drug addiction to wanting to fill whatever it is, that void or that pain that's inside, to not have to feel that anymore. And then you only have a small percentage of people that actually become addicted to those drugs, those painkillers or whatever it is, that most people could just stop once the pain is gone.
Yeah, that's essentially it, Jesse. That's a brilliant deduction. That's kind of what we're faced with, whether it's caffeine or coffee or recreational drugs or any number of things that are available to us now. And of course, the legalization of these things is part of the globalist disintegration of society, you might say. And to add to that, it's kind of startling the lack of logic that's available for people now when it's hard for them to assess the very simple fact that that these kinds of coercive, corruptive positions are they're right in front of us, and it's hard for people to even stand up to that, and that may be because we've been immersed in the coffee and caffeine and alcohol and such for so long, and so it's a bit of a quandary, but the truth in the end will always prevail.
Yeah, we are being poisoned in so many different ways. And I think what, you were talking about earlier about, needing to detox is that our body is amazing and it protects itself, it heals itself. So if we're subjugated to unnatural substances, toxins, what the body does is that it stores it away, it tries to eliminate it, it does everything it can to protect itself from being harmed by these toxins. And part of we were talking about earlier with the meat, if I'm not sure if people are aware, but 90% of the pharmaceuticals sold in the world are injected into animals or put into animals. So just imagine, I know people like half of the United States of America, and I'm probably sure Canada, are taking 4 or 5 pills every single day. So you're talking about hundreds of millions of people taking 4, 5, 6, 10 handfuls of pharmaceuticals a day, and that only accounts to 10% of the pharmaceuticals sold worldwide. The other get injected into animals, which in turn, it makes those animals toxic soup. And, and as well as the feed. They don't feed them, they feed genetically modified corn, genetically modified soy. They're feeding these things to the animals, which the animals, they don't recognize. Plus they give them the weight gainers, the steroids, the hormones, the antibiotics. It really becomes a toxic soup. And, for me, I witnessed it personally myself when I used to get sick once or twice a year. And now I don't get sick at all. Like in this 5 or 6 years, I had a headache for, I think, 3 or 4 days. I don't usually get headaches. I was a little bit tired, had a headache. And at one other time, I was just feeling a little bit run down. But that was just my body eliminating the toxins, because even though I'm not eating meat, I'm still eating lots of glyphosate. We're breathing in the chemicals. We go and drive and get natural spring water. So we're not drinking the water, but still bathing, showering in fluoridated water or toxic chlorinated water. This stuff ingests into the body, and then the body has to get rid of it. And that's why you get sick. And that's why flu shots are one of the biggest, con jobs in history of humanity, is to stop your body's natural ability to detox itself, to get rid of toxins. Hey, I'm going to take this flu shot. It's not going to get me sick. A lot of people get violently ill from it. I've known people that have gotten severely sick, but that's just because the body was so toxic that once you take this, it's like, we need to get rid of all these toxins, especially whatever you just injected with me now, and people get sick. But for people that don't get sick, that's a travesty, because all of your toxic soup just stays stuck inside of your body, and you're not able to, fully, become, a balanced when you got, all these parasites. I think it's very parasitic what we're going through.
Yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. I've been fairly, you could say, lucky in that my body responds to such things like that. Like in 1984, it was on my honeymoon in Florida, I think, and ended up drinking one of these big gulp things, which I don't normally do anyway. And it was the very start of the aspartame. And I ended up with a 3-day headache I could not get rid of. And so something twigged when I got home. I did some research, found out that it caused brain tumors in rats. And then Reagan fires the head of the FDA and they push it through. And so that's essentially the process we've been under, that money overrules, the need for, human safety and security. And that's kind of a tragic element of our life nowadays, because it forces us to either be aware or get thrown under the bus, essentially. And so it's a little bit sad in that regard. But there again, the flip side to that is that we're in this definitely recognized situation now, where the revealing of these truths is coming out more and more. If you think about it, 3.5 years ago, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation, right? There'd be no need for it. But that's the great thing, is that the level of sort of pain that has been wrought on humanity is now reaching a point where it just can't be avoided any longer. And so that is a tremendous opportunity for people to stand up. And it's just a little bit tragic that their lives are invested so much in the false program that they just by way of cognitive dissonance, they're not able to even entertain the idea that what has become normal for you and me over the 3 years and over our lifetime is still way out in left field for a lot of people.
What I find a little bit puzzling is the people, like, I've been at this journey for waking people up for 30 plus years. So I've been awake and aware to most things. About 13 years ago, I had a 45-day trip to Asia where I went to 8 different countries, a bunch of third world countries, kind of got pressured into taking these travel vaccines, which that was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made in my life. I started to get Achilles tendonitis. Started to attack my hip joints. I believe that's the reason. I just had double hip replacement surgery. I believe it's from, the actual vaccines that, I took 13 years ago. But I've been trying to make people aware. And ever since then, I got deep into, before I was just about the world and the governments and the power structure and, these satanic and, Luciferians. And, that's the stuff that I was kind of focusing on, not as much with the pharmaceuticals and the vaccines. But after that happened to me, I've been a firm, a believer in making people aware of, the dangers of the vaccines and, knowing that meeting people with children that haven't been vaccinated, that are healthy, that don't get sick, that don't go to the hospital, that don't get the ear infections, that are not always sick, opposed to, people that I know that have taken their kids, especially more recently in the last 10 years, that their kids are always sick and battling health issues and battling things. So I've been trying to make people aware of this stuff, for a very long time, about, the horrors of injecting yourself with unnatural substances and viruses and toxins. And like, this stuff doesn't even make any mathematical sense, how you would think that injecting a bunch of chemicals into a perfect, beautiful body specimen that is built and designed to heal itself and protect itself, and now you're starting to introduce all these unnatural substances into it, how that could miraculously protect you or make you healthier. It's the exact opposite, but it just shows how we live in such an inverted and perverted world where, truth is lies and lies are truth, and things are very, very backwards in this, day and age that we're living in.
Yeah, and we know now that it's all by way of financial generation. I mean, as you mentioned, the Rockefeller drug ideology, it's been inflicted upon humanity immediately following the 1866 Louis Pasteur, Antoine Béchamp situation, where it became a very profitable situation. And then we're only still here after 3.5 years is, of course, by way of the propaganda train. And the encouraging thing to realize there is that that train is coming to a close, and that the emergence of truth is happening by way of things like your promotion and your interviews. I have over 100 videos on BitChute as well. People can see them if you type in. I can type in the thing in the chat, but that's essentially what's happening, is that there are hundreds of thousands of people and platforms and small groups. When the group gets too big, well, then they get cut off, because it's not in the financial interest of the falsehood to keep them going. But there's no way to stop this truth emergence, because, like I say, there's hundreds of thousands. It's happening by word of mouth. It's happening by whatever exposure you're getting, whatever I am. We have a group, a Zoom group on Saturday nights that's being promoted there. There's just, as you know, there's just so many ways that the truth will not be suppressed on this time around. This is unique, and there is a definitive end of this, which is coming, with no doubt.
Yeah, I like to, hear that you have, positivity or have optimism when it comes to that, because like we just interviewed Clay Clark a couple of days ago, and he's very religiously, based, and he believes that things are going to get much worse. He believes, prepare, stock up, get right with Jesus. He's like, saying these things because he doesn't feel, the optimism. He thinks we can't stop the NWO. We can't stop the transhumanism. He believes that this stuff is going to move forward, but I'm not of that belief. I'm not of that thought process. I believe that we were brought here to stop these things, and that we can make it better. And they've ruled by secrecy for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And now we're using their own, surveillance system technologies against them by being able to share this information, by being able to connect with like-minded people, by being able to reach as many people as we can. And I believe the veil is being lifted. And, I believe that, we have come together at this time, to create a new earth, to be able to, stop this poisoning or this insane, trajectory, crash, collision course for destruction, and that we can right the ship. And I'm going to do what I can, at least making people aware, for every breath that I have here, and fight this, because, I don't want to go, down that, transhumanist linked up to a cyborg computer and, microchips in me, and all that's not, I'm not interested in any of that. And I'll oppose it with every breath that I have here.
Yeah, well, Clay's right that it does have to get a little worse, but we have to realize that the only reason it has to get worse is because of people's readiness to actually come to the truth and come to the realization that we've been had in a lot of cases based on this financial generation of falsehood. And so the question is, if you are going to correct a situation, how would you actually do it? And that has to be through the revealing of the pain that's out there because of people's reluctance to address that information. And so while it will get worse, as mentioned, there is ways for us to stand with the truth and somewhat protect ourselves through this procedure. That being, building up our reserves, grabbing some cash to stand against the CBDC routine, and to protect ourselves on a day-to-day basis in that regard. And the information's always there for us. It comes by way of friends or neighbors or intuitive responses to guide us through this process as we unfortunately have to witness the forced wake up of the others who refuse to acknowledge what's before us all. And so it's difficult on that regard, but it's been evident over these 3 years that the truth is coming out faster and faster. Tucker Carlson had a great personal interview the other day, if you were able to catch it, where he did make the declaration unconditionally that he will keep telling the truth You can take my job away. You can throw me in jail. Do what you want. That is the essence of this procedure that we all need to just kind of address, that we will not compromise the truth anymore. And as David Hawkins has portrayed in that chart, that's where the power lies. And the force of falsehood in the lower positions there is no match for the truth. And so it's a bit of a faith position to see that and to move with it and stand confidently with it. But as I mentioned, the information behind me has done that for me. It has, at least up until today, protected me on that regard. And standing with the truth and the declaration that Tucker made is the way that we move forward in this procedure. And there's a definite difference between what's going on this week and what's going on in the first week of March of 2020. You know that, and anybody else paying attention knows that. So this is a progressive movement. The trucker rally gave us the key ingredient, which is unity, and Mohandas Gandhi in the 1940s also gave us the key to move through this process in the correct fashion. This isn't a fight. This isn't a war. This is simply the recognition of truth. And it's important to realize that we've been encouraged into the fight procedure. We have to fight all the pests in our garden with pesticides. We have to fight all the herbs in our garden with herbicides. We have to, fight our bacteria in our body with antibiotics. And then we have to fight another person on another continent during a war that we've never met before. And so this is all a programmed, ridiculous maneuver to get us into this fight modality when there is no need to fight. The globalists who are running the situation may be the only ones that we need to fight. And in that case, all we need to do is ignore them. People will say, well, they're imposing things by way of laws and stuff that come down. Well, that's true. They are attempting to do that. But even members of the police force are recognizing the incorrectness. And as they bring forth their own integrity, morality, and ethics, and combine that with logic, then that's the solution that's being presented before us every day and is growing every day.
So have you noticed then with the police forces being more open to this information, because they've been the actual, the security force to these, globalists? They've been the ones protecting the bankers, protecting the politicians, protecting the system when they're supposed to be, protecting people. That's what they thought they were getting into, was, protecting and serving people. But once you get into the system, you realize you're protecting the bankers more than anything.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Jesse. You're not going to hear about the emerging consciousness of these types of individuals because mainstream is never going to present that forward. But there is a serious movement that is affecting everybody in all categories. The police are no less affected by it. You have your CSPOA from Sheriff Mack in the United States. The sheriffs in the states have the highest authority of anybody within that state. And he's affecting sheriffs in that regard, that they are there to serve the people and protect. And so the other thing that's coming forth is the emergence of natural law or God's law. This is a very real thing that's coming forward. There will be little to no effect in the fake legal system that's there now. People have made attempts, Reiner Fulmich and such. And then there's Pascal Najadi on the latest one. So there is a limited, palpable presentation of the emergence of truth in that regard, but that's simply because they're dealing with fake systems. The legal system is there to provide for the legal system and not provide for humanity on a large regard. And so these changes are happening. I did an interview with one of the young French ladies on my BitChute channel, Maria, who was at the trucker rally, and she was serving soup and food to people. She has. This is going way back now, but she has stories of hugging police officers, and so this emerging consciousness is something that cannot be refused anymore, and it's the necessary move to integrity, morality, and ethics that has been missing all along. And so, as people come to that realization, then it makes it easier to sort of have faith in humanity on that regard, because it is by way of information that we can proceed forward and have confidence in this emergence that's happening before us all.
What do you think about, this emergence of consciousness and people becoming aware, but people being injected with whatever it is that they're injected, maybe hindering, maybe stopping that, connection to the consciousness, that evolving, or even, making people more angry at the people that haven't, and they're using that, as an excuse to divide themselves, amongst people, as they use the divide and conquer tactics.
Yeah, that's absolutely something we have to recognize. One of your viewers had typed in there, I just caught it, about the attempt to divide us all. It's always been that way. You've got the BLM, you've got your Antifa, paid movements, to generate this confrontation and divide us. And people are, at least the ones awake are well ahead of that game. Many of the maneuvers that are coming down now have been called out immediately as they come out, if not before. And so this is the palpable recognition of humanity recognizing that the drive to divide us has been there for a long time. As you know, the Rothschilds have financed all the world wars over the last 200 years. Why else would somebody go to another continent and shoot somebody they've never met before? It's the propagandized manipulation of the human psyche that eventually leads to PTSD because oops, they made the wrong mistake. And this is not any way to provide judgment or condemnation. This is just the victimization, and that's why David Straight can cure a PTSD person in 35 minutes, because once they find out they've been coerced and been propagandized, that changes the whole picture right there. It's something that's coming out full force, and it will not stop.
A good friend of ours, Linda from Calgary, she says you were born 2 days after her, so you guys are right at the same age there.
Oh yeah, good. Thanks, Linda. Nice to hear from you.
So where do you think we're currently at in, the amount of people? Some people believe we need 6% or 3% critical mass, or 12% or 20% to really, to really stop, some of these, insane plans from the World Economic Forum and all these different, the Agenda 2030 from happening. Where do you think we're at? How close do you think we are? Do you think we're, over that breaking point? It's now just a matter of, putting together the right systems in place to take back our freedom?
With all due respect, I don't get involved too much with this number or that number, because essentially the fundamental solution to this whole thing that is occurring and has been occurring, and we've been talking about it, is each and every individual coming to the truth, coming to address the demons that may be inside them on a personal basis, as the nurses who have displayed and that have left their profession I mean, these are major life choices where they're choosing truth over their income, their lifeblood. And so essentially, where the number is at is not so much important as understanding that the progression is there. It's absolute. It will not be stopped. And having us to realize that that's occurring, and that the pain that's being delivered to people who continually refuse the truth is part of that. And that's a tragic element when it happens to be people that we know and love in our own family and friends. But it's as we all know now, it's very hard to convince somebody. Even when you have a mountain of information that's behind me, it's powerless to change because of the intensive and deep programming that we've all been going through for so many years at this point. And so yeah, the numbers, I'm not sure what the numbers are, but people can be rest assured that it is progressing in the appropriate manner. The only other thing I'll say to that, you can look up things like SG Anon on Rumble. He has some inside military intel, and there's other sources. I think Juan O'Savin puts information out from inside sources. And it very much looks like 2023 is the year of the awakening. And by way of the Twitter opening and things like Edward Dowd's research, he was the fund manager for BlackRock, who came out with the book Cause Unknown. By way of these bits of information coming out, it's palpable signs that that this is progressing in the right direction. And then by way of SG Anon's analysis, by later on in the summer, this truth emergence that has been recently pushed forward will condition people to be not so startled when they actually have to look at the information that you and I have been researching for so long now, and others.
Do you think that it's a spell? They talk about pharmakia, being sorcerers, black magic. It's like you talk to some people and they just don't want to hear it. They don't want to believe it. They can't even comprehend this level of evil. Do you think it's the poisoning, from all the different things, the propaganda? Like, what do you think it is that stops some people from wanting to believe truth? And you could send them real factual information. You could send them information right off of the website, the government website, FDA website, and information that shows this, but still that they just have that Stockholm syndrome where they just want to defend their slave masters. They want to defend these people. Like, what do you think it is, and what do you think it is blocking them from just absorbing real truth?
Well, it's all of the above. It is the chemical contributions to our life, and you and I know that from experiential evidence. It's when you do one thing and then you change over and do another, you can experience that difference in your own life. So definitely the chemical and toxic environment contributes to that, but possibly even to a larger degree, Noam Chomsky has been putting out for at least 40 years the power of propaganda, and by other documents, Emergence of Truth by like Matthias Desmet, Hannah Arendt, that put out the totalitarianism, and the most recent one that I read was Joost Meerloo, The Rape of the Mind. he was a psychiatrist during the Nazi occupation in Holland, and has some amazing things to provide for us along those same lines on how the manipulation of the mind is responsible for people's reluctance to see the truth. Juice Mirlu's notes are on my tab 8 if anybody's interested. The book was written in 1955. It sounds like he wrote it yesterday, because it fits exactly the situation that's going on now. And it does address what you mentioned about how it is that people are so kind of bought, into this program where they'll actually defend the situation. And we must remember that a lot of people's lives and incomes are based on the promotion of these kinds of falsehood. And so not only do they not want to logically come around to the situation that's there, but their life, their income is based on it as well. And that's a very crafty program to have people herded down this narrow trough of fear and guilt tactic programming. So yeah, it's a toughie when it comes down to that. But the information's out there to help us to realize what that's all about. And we have to kind of remember that a lot of these people are victims, and that they require our support, if not this minute, then at some day in the future, so that we can bring this whole thing together as a collective human emergence, and basically refuse, stand against the falsehood that's there. There's no need to fight it. We just need to stop doing it. The globalist agenda requires that we all decide to give our consent. The implied consent. And once people realize that they just don't need to give consent anymore, then the whole thing collapses. And so there is very simple, easy, powerful solutions, and it comes from the individual claiming their own power and realizing that their consent is required for this whole program to even proceed forward. So,
yeah, part of as sick and twisted as some of these people are, they still kind of seem to live by some kind of a code that, they don't want to break universal or karmic law, where they need to tell us what they're going to do to us before they do to us. And then people have to willfully consent to these things, opposed to, they were saying, oh, people are going to come with military and force people to vaccinate them and stuff. But I don't think that fits into their, people have to say roll up their own sleeve or roll up their children's sleeve, where you're doing it to yourself, even though there was coercion and worry about your jobs and things, but really you still made that choice. They didn't force you to inject that into your arm, no matter how, money, job tied you were in. And, I believe that, everybody is a victim here, even if you're born into a family of these, 13 bloodlines, where you're born into something where you're forced into doing and propagating this evil or this plan or this agenda, and you're still a victim until obviously you've turned psychopathic narcissist, where you start enjoying doing some of these things to people, or where they're taking kids and drinking their bloods or whatever these sick things that they do. But in turn, everybody is a victim to this system, and everybody needs healing. And that for most people, they're not responsible. They're just living the best they can. They're just trying to manage the best they can in a very, very vile and corrupt and evil system.
Yeah, that's dead on, and a healthy way to look at this whole situation, and really the only way to look at it. We've gone through years and years and decades and centuries of manipulated anger and fight and devastation. And the fact that, a lot of people may not want to hear that these people are victims, and that they have, that they require forgiveness and such. But realistically, like I said, Gandhi has proven the way for us. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, that sort of thing. So we definitely are at the point where once this critical mass hits, like you say, that it will become, let's say, unfashionable to continue with the pathogenic mindset, with the lack of integrity, the lack of morality, right? You've got your drag queen story times, damaging our children right now. And, it's by careful use of tactics that this is allowed to proceed forward and fool most of the people. It's startling to some of us that the people can be fooled in that regard. But the gender dysphoria that's being created in the children from this will have its own self-solving pattern, you might say, because the devastation that comes from gender mutilation, genital mutilation and such, this will be self-solving to a large degree because these people talk, and once the initial euphoria wears off from the manipulation of a young child's mind, then the realization that you are no longer able to procreate and you have a lifetime of drugs that you have to be on in order to sustain this new pattern that you've chosen for yourself, then that will solve itself on that regard. And of course we do the best we can to illuminate the tragedy that is that situation, being that it's from my research the third significant formalized attack on our children since 1984, when they took away the liability on the vax, of course. So yeah, that's you can see from that it has gotten more absurd and more tragic as this goes along. That comes from the quote that the seeds of destruction are contained within every evil act, thought, word, or deed. And so this is the breakdown of the evil structure. It is occurring, and this unfortunate attack on the children by way of gender dysphoria, like I say, is a certain amount of it is going to have to resolve itself on its own basis, and it will be on that regard, because the careful manipulation of society by way of syllogisms, and ad hominem attacks and things like that, is very powerful, and it's tough for people who want to stand against that. So in that essence, we almost have to let it resolve itself, which is very, very sad to say, because these children are being harmed at a very young age, and so if people won't come to realize that and join us and stand against it, then it will have to take its own course to a degree. And it's sad for me to say that, but that's the truth.
Children have been attacked from the moment, that they're in the womb, and, the growth, the trauma, the worries about fears, about money, about things, that's inside where the mother is growing this baby. And unless they're in a healthy, happy situation, the child feels this, it feels the energy, feels, this, the emotions of the mother. But then yet when a child is born, they clip the umbilical cord, they clamp it, and immediately, and then they cut it when the mother's supposed to be transferring all the nutrients from the baby into, the body through umbilical cord into the baby. And then they say, oh, well, the kid is vitamin K deficient. Well, no shit, Sherlock. If you stop the mother from transferring those nutrients into the baby, then they're going to be deficient of things. And one is vitamin K, stop them from bleeding. So what should we do? Let's inject it into them. Let's spray chemical solution eye wash into them. Let them feel this trauma right from the beginning. Not only do they, get clipped and clamped and cut and stop that natural process where it's just supposed to heal, they start injecting. Now they're even injecting hepatitis shots into like newborns. They spray this chemical solution. So the child is, that's born in through the system, they're having trauma right from the beginning. Like it's a trauma based birth. It's not, it's very cold. It's very sterile. It's very take the baby away from the mother. And it's just, the baby is fighting right from the beginning and dealing with this trauma. And that just fits into the trauma based society that they want us to be in.
Yeah, it's a sad situation. The fact that there has been a concentrated effort, like I said, since 1984 against the children. Like I say, there's very particular attributes of that attack that is, if we know about it, it's helpful, like the syllogism, which is where you have the main topic, which is the story times that they have for the kids with the drag queens, and then when you oppose it, based on gender dysphoria and such, and then the syllogism draws a conclusion that is not related to those 2 points, and they say, well, trans has rights. Trans people have rights. And so there's very crafty manipulations against society. And if we're not versed in exactly how it's being played in that regard, then it becomes difficult for us to deal with it. Joost Meerloo that I mentioned has 3 solutions that need to take place with regards to that. The first one is faith. It can be faith in a higher power, faith in humanity, faith in freedom, faith in your own altruistic goals. It can be a lot of different things. And the second thing is to know that a person is needed somewhere on the planet, always. And then the third thing is to actually recognize what's being put down and imposed upon you, because once you recognize these things, then it deflates the program. And like you said, the consent thing, once people realize that the manufacture of consent or engineered consent is a program that's been going on for some time, and so the wake up very much is occurring by the way of this emergence of truth, which empowers the individual. When once a person knows they've been deceived, they are no longer deceived, and so that's the essence of it.
Now, part of this program and this, being complicit, if you're a doctor or you're a nurse and you've been doing these things, you've been injecting poisons, you've been doing these things, or say you're a police officer and you're involved, in the group, the boys club, where they're getting the hookers and this and that, when you're complicit to these behaviors, does it make it a lot harder for them to admit that they were wrong, to say, hey, like, it's easier to just go with the program knowing you're doing wrong and try to block it out, opposed to stepping up and saying, yeah, I was wrong, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have promoted this vaccine, or sorry, I shouldn't have stood by my brother in blue because he was doing these things. But when you're complicit to these actions, the ego stops yourself from admitting that you were wrong and trying to become out of this programming. And that's, I think, the reason why there's so many doctors and nurses and even police officers that are still not wanting to admit some of this stuff, because they know that they've played an integral part of making this stuff happen for the agenda.
Yeah, David Hawkins points out that the ego will choose death before it chooses to admit that it's wrong. And so that's a powerful statement and leads to what you're talking about. But actually, Bruce Lipton gave us the answer to that one to a large degree when he brought out the and debunked the fact that genes are the determining factor in our lives, and that we actually have control over that by way of his epigenetics. He did a conference, and in that conference, when he told people that they're responsible for their own lives and that genes aren't we're not victims to our genes, essentially, a lady came up to him quite distraught, and she said, I'm troubled that you're telling me that I'm a victim of my genes. And so he had to step back a bit and think. And he said, no, well, actually, this is the way it is. You are responsible for your own genetic structure and determining factors. Once you understand you're responsible for your own genetic structure and determining factors. The same thing applies to the people who have found themselves in a situation that they've been causing harm. The good thing to that is that there's an ever-growing body of people, of which we're a part of, millions and millions of us now, who are here ready as a safety net to catch these situations and bring forth a higher reality for all humanity. And that is by expressing the fact that you are responsible for your actions once you realize that you have been creating the situation. And so yeah, it's tough because people have to kind of, admit that they've been part of a situation that hasn't been maybe appropriate, and there's many of those that are on the planet now. But yeah, the wake up, the collective energy that's available from the love and unity movement will be more than adequate to cushion the blow for a lot of these people.
So here we have Lori Root from Texas. She's a nurse, friend of ours. She says she's never injected the jab in anyone or took it herself. There's lots of doctors and nurses that have chosen to leave their professions if they were forced to either take the vaccines, for their own health and safety, for their conscience, for whatever reasons they have. But what percentage of people or doctors, or nurses do you think that are aware of these, things being not good for you, but yet still just go along like what we were talking about, just being complicit because of ego or for whatever other reasons? But do you think a lot of them are aware, or it's just their education, their programming, their propaganda, makes them believe that these things are the right things, you're supposed to get these things, and they don't see it as injecting toxins or unnatural or unwanted substances into the body, where they actually believe that they're doing good opposed to the harm that they are causing?
Yeah, it's a harsh realization to have to come to that, and throughout certainly the last 157 years, probably a lot longer than that, it's been a move to abandon logic, abandon integrity, abandon morality, and abandon ethics. And that procedure, that's fine if you want to have a 6 or 7 figure income. That's fine to carry on and proceed with that abandonment. The only reason why we're at this stage right now over the last 3 years is because the tragedy that comes from maintaining that position is now more than obvious, more than evident, and it's growing in that regard. So it's a situation where, having abandoned all those things up till March of 2020, sort of allowed a person to continue through their life. And then now we're in a position where it's going to be more difficult for that to occur. And again, the higher reality of seeing the bigger picture, that we are moving to a spot of light and life, that should be enough encouragement for these people to actually reconsider their position on that regard. And ultimately, it will come down to a situation where there's going to be a fair, significant amount of pressure to not possibly move over to a higher level of reality. As the whole planet, or not the whole planet, as the awakened ones are moving over to now a higher level of reality and making their own choices on that regard.
So you mentioned earlier on natural law, and that's the natural, universal, karmic, God's law, natural law. So last year we had Jake Jackson from the United States, who's gone deep in depth into the natural law, building courses and all these types of things. And then recently, or maybe it was the year before, we had Jake Jackson. And last year we met Dallas Hills from the constitutionalconventions.ca. They're really focusing on natural law, on constitutional republics, taking back the cities, taking back the little towns, writing their own constitution written by the people for that area. So if you're in a town in Cranbrook, you're going to write a constitution for the people, protecting the people of Cranbrook. And then Vancouver will have their own one. And, everyone will have their own, whether it's in cities or in provinces, constitutional republic provinces. Not sure exactly how they're going to take it, but they're focusing on this natural law. And I think that that's kind of the direction that we're headed. I really am in alignment with, us being able to have that, where, treat others as you want to be treated, do no harm, do not steal, honor your contracts, if you make a contract with somebody. So this is just some basic things, because we don't really need rulers. We don't need people to govern over us, right? We need people to manage the land, snow removal. They need some things, but, taking money from Canadians and spending $50 million on gender studies in Africa makes zero sense. But yet this is the level of corruption and that we're doing, where they're finding out all these reasons to take the wealth away from Canada and ship it to here and to there and to everywhere, which in turn makes everybody, struggle more if they're taking, because we're all supposed to be very wealthy. We have so much resources here in Canada. Everybody should have millions in their bank and not be worried about, if whether or not they can pay rent or put food on the table. But yet, not many people I know have millions in the bank, if any. And, most people are struggling, when we're not supposed to be there. We're supposed to be wealthy and be living in an abundant life where we're able to enjoy the fruits of our labor.
Yeah, the natural law is the basis of that whole situation that is emerging more and more. As I mentioned, Pascal Najati is the latest one to create a tribunal based on natural law. It's important to realize the fact that he may not get anywhere in the legal system doesn't take away from the fact that it's yet another emergence of this natural law that will eventually have its day. It will eventually see its position. And it becomes more difficult for people to show up at other people's places and impose their will on them by way of doing their job and actually causing harm to those people. So yeah, the do no harm, cause no loss is the fundamental aspect of it. And when people continue to do that by way of their job, then that's the realization that we're all coming to, and that the collective whole will eventually stand up against. So essentially, what that means is that the truth is very simple. Do no harm, cause no loss. We don't necessarily need 20 or 30,000 prescription drugs to make us whole. And we don't need 20 or 30,000 codes, acts, and statutes to live by. And so, yeah, that's the beauty of truth. It's very simple, very applicable, and it comes down to standing with your own sovereign power and right to life, liberty, and property. And so once a significant number of us get to that point, that deflates the other side. It deflates the situation that we've gotten ourselves into. And like you said, many of us have mistakenly got ourselves into that situation, and it's time for us all to come together at this point and figure out how we're going to proceed as the financial aspect of those things is being put secondary to the primary aspect of the welfare and benefit of each and every one of us on this planet.
Now, you mentioned the trucker convoy earlier, and that actually, I enjoyed the trucker convoy. Did try to do reporting on it, interviewed people that were part of it. And I was very proud. I think it did a lot of things. I think it changed, the course of history. But you've got people that are in the truth community that believe they know it all, and everything is, controlled up. Oh, that was done. Controlled opposition. You got people that are speaking out that got quite a big followings of people. Oh, he's controlled up. Everybody's controlled up. Nobody trusts anybody. And it seems like we spin our wheels if everybody's trying to point their finger at everybody else, opposed to trying to focus on the solutions, trying to focus on how we can stop them, opposed to, who's got more following and whether or not they must, because they're getting media attention, they must be, controlled opposition. So what's your thoughts on, that and the divisiveness that it causes?
Again, I refer back to Amanda Vollmer. She perfectly answered that question, so people can refer back to that on your videos. Essentially, we need to, again, go back to the intuition. We have all the answers, inside. And when we put the wake up of humanity before our own agenda and goals, then that's really all we need to proceed. And those who may have ulterior motives and whatever, they will be revealed on that basis very quickly. And so I don't get too worried about that. It's actually quite easy to see when you talk to people, whether they're off in another space or have an ulterior agenda. It comes down to simplicity. The truth is very simple. Love is very simple. God is very simple. And so we can have the confidence in moving forward that these kinds of things will sort of self-resolve. They'll figure themselves out on the same way that the latest child problem, coercion, will resolve itself. And so, yeah, we just have to have the confidence that the truth is very, very simple. And if somebody decides to complicate it beyond that, or have an ulterior agenda, then it will be revealed quite clearly.
I like to say you will know them by their fruits. And, I believe that, for a lot of these people, I don't care what their motivation is behind being against the agenda, be exposing truth. I don't care if you find this way to be popular and that's a way I'm going to go out and be loud and bang. And it's, because of your, ego, or because you want to be, in front of the limelight, that's the reason why. I don't care if it's because you want to sell t-shirts. I don't care if it's whatever it is your reasoning is to behind, but I have respect for all the people who are opposing this tyranny. I have respect for all the people who are risking themselves, putting a target on their back and making themselves ostracized from other people because they're standing up to this tyranny. And you've got people that go and attack this person. He's this and he's this and he's that. But they're doing something. they're actually making a difference. They're rattling the cages. And for that, I have respect for. And I lose respect for the people, even though they're maybe minds in the right place, their hearts in the right place, they've got good intentions, but yet when they're causing these divisions, where they're trying to discredit people in the movement, they're trying to discredit, people's characters because they got tattoos on their neck or whatever it is, the reason why. I think that they're just as harmful as the people that are doing this to us, because, now's the time where we do have to come together and unify to be able to stop, this agenda. And being divisive among people in the truth community, it hinders us. It doesn't help us. And, I keep reiterating that, but there are still people out there that are, actually causing division and causing us setbacks by them targeting other individuals for whatever reason that they have for targeting them.
Yeah, that's important to bring up. I mean, and again, it's important for us to realize the technicalities that are behind certain situations. And when you get somebody who has achieved a status whereby they're actually making a serious impact on the global agenda, well, then you're going to see your ad hominem attacks and other discrediting situations. So it's a particular nuance of this situation. It happened with Alex Jones, where he said the wrong thing, got too big, and then they had to take him out at the knees. And so now he's no longer effective. And so, again, I go back to what I'm talking about with the fact that this wake up is occurring by hundreds of thousands of small pods and words of mouth and Zoom meetings and situations. And that will continue. And the people who are making an effort and actually achieving success, I think John Euler fell under that. I haven't been able to find out, but John Euler was the therapist with 15,000 hours of clinical experience calling out the gender dysphoria and such. And I seem to think he got attacked. I saw something on Twitter, and they discredited him with some story. Now, I'm not saying the story is true or not, but there's a typical example of somebody with powerful information debunking a situation on a high regard, and them being taken out at the knees. Personally, I'm not big enough. My followers on BitChute are not big enough to be bothered with, and so that's essential to know that this wake up is occurring. It will not stop by way of these tiny pods that are coming forward. And I don't know whether you're big enough yet, Jesse, to be directly attacked yet or not. But that's just a nuance of the situation. Until we get a firmer grip on this, then if you get too big, you're going to get clipped. And so that's something we can proceed with confidence as we spread the word amongst our fellow friends and family and whoever else is there to listen to the procedure and the progression of this wake up.
Yeah, well, we've gotten attacks, right from the beginning kind of thing. And I don't know if it's because I've been at this for a very long time or that I'm very, very vocal. I'm not afraid. I don't know why, but we've had that. It's been a lot less over the last year. We're not getting I believe the bot attacks, the CIA attacks. We're not getting those type of attacks. We're reaching, our biggest platform is Facebook. We're reaching 80 to 120,000 people per month on our Facebook page. Wow. So we're reaching some people. We're also on BitChute and Telegram and Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey, the Dollar Vigilante picked us up. And so we're getting out there, but we're not reaching millions of people. And once you start reaching millions of people, that's when you become on the radar of some of these higher ups where, things start to happen more and more. And, but we still obviously there are people out there that want to discredit you, that want to attack you, that want, they don't know why you're getting, airtime, or you're out in front of people and they're jealous of it, or whatever it is, their reasons. But most of the attacks that we have are for lower level people that are just, for whatever reason, ego, or the jealousy or whatever it is. But we had to face some of that over the years, but not as much as some people. And I don't believe it's been from any agencies or anything that we've been attacked by.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you bring up, that you had been attacked in the beginning and then not so much in the last year, because I would hazard a guess that in alignment with what I said about hundreds of thousands of people with promoting truth and coming forth with information, there comes a point when it used to take $32 trillion to coerce the public into fear and propaganda. Well, now it takes $32 trillion and $1 to do it, and they don't have it. And so what I'm essentially saying is that they're having a hard time capturing and covering the millions and millions of people and emergences of truth. And if that's not an indication that you've been relaxed over the last year, then I don't know what a better explanation would be. That eventually they're just not going to be able to keep up with the truth, because no amount of money will be able to cover that. And especially when it comes from millions and millions of individuals and small groups putting forth that information.
And if it's coming from a genuine place of love and caring from the heart, people, you will know them by their fruits. You will see the people, what they're doing, why they're doing, how they're doing. You just listen, and it's easy to discern, where people, especially when they're out front in the public eye, you can kind of tell the reason why. Like, I know some people are in the movement because they want to be popular and because they want to sell shirts and make a little bit of money and things like that. I know that. Will I stop promoting it because of it? No. Will I bring them on and interview them and get them out there, the message? It's because I'm in alignment with the message. I'm not in alignment with them. Everybody needs money. If they, need to sell t-shirts to continue on with this, great. We're in a society where we still need money. So, for people that are making money out of this, that's what they're doing. Fine. As long as I'm in alignment with what they're saying. As long as I'm in alignment with the message, as long as I see them out there pounding the pavement, going to rallies, making people aware of the 15-minute cities, they're out there doing the work. How can I say anything bad about that person because they want to make some money doing some t-shirts or use the popularity to make a little bit of money or sell some books or whatever? I don't care why. Doesn't matter to me why you're doing what you're doing, as long as you're doing what I believe the people need to hear. And that's what I'm in alignment with. And that's, I have no problem interviewing. Some people say, oh yeah, don't watch The Missing Link. He interviews too many controlled opposition, too many controlled ops and all that. But every single person that I've brought here on The Missing Link has had valuable information, and 98% of it I've been in alignment with. There's a few doctors that I've not been in alignment with, that I've had to dig my heels into. I'm not sure if you saw the interview 200 with Dr. Amanda Vollmer and Dr. Paul Cottrell. They debated germ theory versus terrain theory. So we had a big debate on that. But before that, we had Dr. Paul Cottrell, which when I asked him about the validity of the virus, oh, those dumbass truthers don't think that we've isolated the virus. They're just dumbass truthers. And he was like really kind of getting him. My blood was starting to boil, and the people in the comments were like, they're like, this guy is such an asshole. And, people were like thrashing him in the comments. And I let him talk for about the first 45 minutes, just kind of, and then I dug my heels in, told him my position. I wasn't backing down. And then we talked for 5.5 hours almost. And the next 4.5 hours was amazing. The information was so packed full of, good information, that a lot of people that left in that first 45 minutes that didn't even want to listen to this guy anymore because of, he was kind of ignorant to people, right? These dumbass truthers don't believe, and they're causing this and that they didn't get to ingest the rest of the real good part of it. But it took me digging my heels in and, and talking to a doctor. Like, we've interviewed over 40 doctors here now in our 420 interviews. Over 40 of them, 10% of all of interviews have been doctors here. And so, that we're just getting the information out. And with most of the people I'm in alignment with, and most of the people I'm in alignment with, but I'm very open-minded. I'm trying to bring people together opposed to dividing. Like, when I say I stopped eating meat, I don't call myself a vegetarian, because that's putting a label on me, right? And as soon as you label yourself, you're dividing yourself from the rest. So I just stopped eating meat. And if you eat meat, great. If I don't eat meat, great. That's what I've decided. But I don't call myself a vegetarian. I'd never call myself a vegan, because, not only do they get a bad rap because of some insane people, the way they act, being a vegan, but because I love honey. I love eggs. Like, these are, so I could never be, but again, it's the labels. I'm this means I'm divided away from everybody else. And, we need unity now more than ever, and labels is what divides us.
Yeah, I think the thought that comes out of that is that it's up to us now to actually just live in the moment, assess the situation from that deeper place of knowing and of truth, and moving forward with compassion and tolerance. As part of our mainstay. And so, yeah, I think that's essentially what comes out of that.
So let's talk a little bit more about you. You were an orphan. You were adopted. Tell us about how you found out about that. What you thought when you first. How old were you when you first found this that you're probably were shocked when you found this stuff out? It must have been at an early age.
Yeah, I was quite young, maybe 5 or 6 years old, when I became cognizant of what those words meant. And in that case, like I said, I've talked with other people, and some of them are just quite fine. They don't have any concerns or don't need to know anything. They landed in a good family, and that's all that matters. I also landed in an amazing family. My father was one of 4 men in my lifetime that I consider to be saints. And so that's not a bad position to be landing in. However, that doesn't exempt me from the cognitive feeling of being abandoned or being, tossed out, so to speak. And so what happened after that was the position that I had taken to protect myself, because that's what happens. We all put walls up to protect ourselves from situations. And what I alluded to was that there's energies out there for us all to be capturing and resolving those situations now. But in any case, I was led on by way of a trusted psychic years and years later that my pain was part of a reoccurring situation over lifetimes, and that that pain was initiated by way of a particular lifetime that he asked to go back to. What initiated this recycling continual pain situation in early life? And so when you understand that situation, then you can actually come to resolve that situation. And I did that by way of David Hawkins, and realizing the falsehood of anger and pain and grief and all those things, to the point where about 2.5 years ago, I just kind of looked around in my shop. And when I would be normally triggered to an anger response, I just said, hey, wait a minute, that's a positionality. We like to say that these are emotions that are part of us, but I used that recognition and understanding from Hawkins, and I said, I don't have to react that way. And so I have resolved it on that basis. And I'm thankful for David Hawkins and his understanding and that type of information that has come forward.
So, you said you have a shop, that you guys put a sign out saying that these breathing inhibitors are prohibited. Is this the True Center shop? What is the True Center? What's your shop? Is it, is there more? I believe you guys got some kind of a pottery or something that you have.
Yeah, we actually make concrete items, but you know what, Jesse, my battery is running low here. I'm really apologize for that. Am I able to grab a cord and can you take a pause?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry about that, but
No. That's all good.
Okay, just a sec. I'll be as fast as I can.
Yeah, no worries. And anybody, if you guys got any questions here for Dave, my hips, thank you all for all your concern and saying you're glad to see me back in here and healthy. When I first started the interview with Zach Verhees, the first half an hour was, I guess, okay. And the next, 30, 40 minutes was tough. It was really uncomfortable. Interviews this week, first 45 minutes was good. And here I was good for about an hour. So I'm getting a little better, a little stronger. I'm starting to get a little bit uncomfortable here, sitting here. But we're going to go for maybe about 15 or 20 more minutes. And if you guys do have any questions for Dave or any comments or anything, please, share that, here.
Sorry about that. I charged up last night, but I guess we're going on long here today. So
yeah, most of our interviews are about 2 hours. They've been because of my double hip replacement surgery that I had less than a month ago. I had to cancel 15 interviews for 3 weeks, which the surgery was supposed to be March 15th. It was supposed to be yesterday, but they brought me in on February 17th. So I didn't schedule any interviews after March 15th, but all the interviews I scheduled before that, because they brought me in early, I've had to postpone. I'm going to have to reschedule and stuff. But ever since I've been back, I've been trying to keep them around an hour, but it's getting a little bit better as I'm healing. So there is no set time, but probably will wrap it up in about 20 minutes because I'm starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable now. But maybe if you just want to tell us about your shop and about the True Center, and just tell us more about you and the stuff that you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, we ended up finding this location on a busy highway. We had researched that we need, for selling handmade goods, we need to be have certain exposure on the highway. But little did we realize in 2017 that the True Center was going to be more important than actually the goods that we're selling. And so we had been potters in the 1990s, and we got tired of production pottery. So we used our clay sculpting skills to create crazy little critters out of clay, and then I latex cast them and then pour them in concrete and weld up the legs and such. And so that's the interesting aspect of this. The room that I sit in here is actually an art gallery that we've dedicated to BC artists over the 5 years we've been here. The gift shop is also over there, which sells our concrete items. Now after we did our research into the truth and found out some very particular details, I kind of thought, well, what do I do with this truth? Because it's well beyond the stage in the 1980s when we did research for our own benefit, for the benefit of our children. And so what do I do with this information? And so what I did is I captured a little piece of the wall behind me to present that information to anybody who may wish to see it. And then what happened is that area just kept growing and growing and growing. When they turned up the screws, I turned up the volume on the Truth Center. And so you can kind of see possibly I can kind of do a pan. The people up top there starts with Antoine Béchamp and ends up with a lady in Australia who was the most recent to learn the truth. But anyway,
that's amazing. And this
Yeah,
is for
there's
anybody that can just come in. If someone was saying, hey, if you'd like to know more about what's going on, you can go to the Truth Center and just sit down and start reading this information. Like, people are welcome to come and, like, or do they take some of this materials,
yeah,
they lend it out? Do you lend it out to them, or how does that work?
all the documents that you see in the racks behind me are free to take. A lot of those documents are on the website that you see there as well. But yeah, it's there are some books. I've got some particular books that are foundational to my research. For instance, Antoine Béchamp. This is his book that's essentially an autobiography, which goes through the steps that he took to prove that the basics of pleomorphism and how the fundamental units of human biology are there to assist us in maintaining homeostasis and a healthy body, as you mentioned previously in this interview. And so, yeah, we do have a few foundational books for sale that are important in this process. And then, of course, the results of our research that are typed out into documents, many of which are on the site. And then my BitChute channel is actually Dave Shears. I don't know if you want me to type it in,
Sure.
but
Yeah, please. If you put that in, I'll put that into the comments. Lori Root, our nurse friend from Texas, she's like, where is it located? Where, or is your shop located?
it's in Carameus, BC.
I'm a Canadian. I don't even know where. I've never even heard of that. Is that northern BC then?
No, it's southern on the border to Washington. We're half an hour from Penticton and half an hour from Osoyoos. So yeah, it's we happen to have the traffic on the highway because we learned that without that, marketing, like I said, marketing handmade goods is very, very difficult if you have to travel everywhere. So we learned that little necessary ingredient. So we do have the traffic here based on the Okanagan, Okanagan being one of the most popular Western tourist destinations with the lakes and the hot sun. We're the northern tip of the Sonoma Desert here. So we do enjoy the benefits of that kind of a climate. I grew up in Vancouver, so I've had enough rain in my lifetime to last another 5 lifetimes, I'm sure. And so I really appreciate the sun and the warmth and the beauty of the Carameus climate. And it's important for people to realize too that big city life is going to be a little more difficult for people in the future, and many are moving away from it now. Otherwise, they can safeguard themselves by way of other means and securing reserves and cash and such to make it through as we complete the process of the awakening.
Now, you said that, you put a sign out saying masks are prohibited. What kind of backlash? You said you were on some media organizations. Did you get any fines? Did you get any governmental agencies trum down on you guys, for taking that position? Like, tell us about how that was, because obviously I'm sure there wasn't a lot of people that had your position and had those signs out front in their stores.
No, we were kind of pretty early on that. And like I say, it came out of our information that's behind me. If I felt in any way that I would be harming people by putting that sign out there, then of course I would have never moved in that direction. But the research that I have behind me, including the book that I just showed, proved to me unconditionally that people on 2 regards are harming themselves by wearing a mask, and in a third instance, it's totally a waste of time because of the lack of existence of an exogenous pathogenic microorganism. And so assisting me with that, and also I do 5G assessments. I've done it in Penticton and Kelowna. I was formally trained in 1977 as an electronics technologist in telecommunications from BCIT in Burnaby, Vancouver. And then in 2004, when I lived in central Alberta, Red Deer, I became an emergency medical technician, ambulance. And so both of those professions have assisted me in assessing, both the physiological side of this propaganda campaign, and then the with regards to the electronics training. I found out approximately 2 years ago now, by way of a cardiac arrhythmia that developed in my body. I had always been healthy. I played 18 years of box lacrosse in Vancouver and Richmond when I grew up, and had been healthy all the way along, spending a lot of time on a treadmill and concerns about cardiovascular fitness. And so developing a cardiac arrhythmia did not make sense. And so I took Arthur Furstenberg's advice. There's 33 symptoms behind me here of the effects of electromagnetic radiation. And I ended up getting rid of my cell phones, got rid of all cordless phones, took away the Wi-Fi and went Ethernet, and I turned off the smart meter. And within 1 week, I resolved my cardiac arrhythmia.
Wow.
And so that confirmed to me that we're on the right path in calling out the negative effects of big telco and big pharma and big industry, and that they really are more concerned about the bottom line than they are about human physiology. And so that's why I went ahead and started doing assessments on the electromagnetic radiation in Kelowna and Penticton, and so yeah, it's all part of an awakening. It's all part of understanding that we are immersed in a situation where unfortunately the money has taken a precedent over human welfare. And so this is just something that has to be addressed and is being addressed and will not stop.
So I was connected with the National Citizens Alliance political party. I even ran for them in the last federal election. It was unfortunate they took a very anti-Muslim stance in their website and their positioning, Muslim extremism and all this, which painted them as, a hate group and all this. So I was battling, trying to even, I'm good with marketing and sales and talking and all that. And it was constantly trying to dig myself out of a hole that, their position had created. But one of the things that we did do was, the 5G meters going around towers. We went to the Stony Plain Indian Reserve that said that one day that there was no tower. They went to sleep, they woke up, and then there was a tower built. They came in the middle of the night, whatever time, 8, 9, 10 p.m. and worked till 5, 6, 7 a.m., whatever their crew. They woke up and they saw this tower that was never there the day before. And they didn't know how it got there. They didn't know who put it there. And we were doing, meters and things, going around and doing this kind of stuff. So I remember, being a part of this, being people aware of the exposures and things. So do you believe that, and you've experienced it yourself, but that people are being affected on a grand scale by these technologies and by these things? Because it seems some people get affected more than others, and some people don't seem to get affected by these things, or at least not that they are aware of that their body's being affected by it.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because things like German New Medicine and us, mind over matter and being able to deal with these things definitely play into it. But, a person really might do well in trying to figure out how it is that we have a 54.1 childhood disease rate. I mean, that never, ever made any sense to me. And trying to justify it by ways of standard allopathic knowledge, just doesn't cut it anymore. And so, some people will be affected more than others, But when you look at the bioinitiative report, that information is behind me. And then also Ronald Kostoff from the Georgia Institute has a 1,085-page report on electromagnetic radiation damage titled The Greatest Unethical Medical Experiment in Human History. And so it's an experiment because it's imposed on people without their knowledge or consent. And it's unethical because it is causing damage, and again, without consent. And so, yeah, the fact that some people aren't affected doesn't necessarily mean that the damage that's registered in the bioinitiative report isn't occurring. And that's a startling fact right there. And so, I consider myself lucky. I don't consider I have a weak body because I got a cardiac arrhythmia. I consider that my body is working precisely as needed to alert me to these situations, much as it does when I dried a bunch of pears last year and I wasn't paying enough attention. I didn't get organic. And then I ate a couple of pears one night and I ended up with an all-night headache. And so that's enough for me to throw all those pears out. I mean, I listen to my body, and that's the main thing in this situation. We got to start listening to our body, go into our intuition, get it answering questions for us, and then we'll all be fine in this procedure.
Now we have here, Jerry was saying, what do you need besides an EMF meter to scan your area for targeting? And then he also said, how can you find the small 5G dishes if they don't have a map showing them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I use a tri-field meter. It seems to be fairly economical. The problem with the tri-field is that it won't pick up the newer, higher levels of 5G radiation. So then we're looking at, I've seen a few meters that are, I think they're going for a couple $100. So yeah, so that's a problem for most people to protect themselves. One of the best ways I would suggest is you can go to the website and pick up the list of 33 symptoms that are there. Because aside from me eliminating a cardiac arrhythmia, it also altered my sleep pattern. It brought me back to a deeper sleep that I hadn't experienced for the 5 or 6 years prior to owning cell phones. Arthur Furstenberg has a great story in that there's a gentleman who had a tower by his place, and throughout his whole life, basically, I don't know how far back that goes with the cell radiation, but he had a tower by his place, and he was 50 years old. And one day the tower fell over, and then after that day forward, he was able to sleep. Wow. Prior to that, he wasn't. So, there's these stark realities that are out there. But as far as Jerry's question is that we have to kind of recognize from a bigger scale the situation we're in. Obviously, if you're in a big city, then you're going to be way more subject to this situation, and to have to deal with it on that basis is going to be more difficult. I mean, obviously, you can take some of the precautions I did in getting rid of the cell phone. The cellular phones are just as bad nowadays in that you can be down the street basically and still talk on a cordless phone. And then hooking up to Wi-Fi, removing the Wi-Fi and hooking up with Ethernet. So those are immediate circumstances that can help you in your daily life. Knowing that the 5G waves are more difficult to penetrate a building is helpful. So that in other words, if you do make the changes that I have made, then you will be protected within your building, at least to a degree. That was proven to me in Kelowna when I did a reading in the parking lot, and I went into the building and I lost that reading from the very building that was putting that signal out. So there are particular things you can do for your own immediate circumstance. If you happen to be, say, in a work environment that is being affected by this situation, then unfortunately, just like the nurses and everybody else, you may have to come to a harsh decision as to whether that environment is going to be healthy for you in the future if you can't actually get your work environment to remediate the situation on that basis. So other than that, I think we have to have a little bit of faith that the truth movement as a whole, as it brings out the realization that we are losing not only human physiology conditions, but it's affecting the bees and the birds and everybody else. And so have a little bit of faith also that this truth is coming out. And I hesitate to mention it, but you will see videos out there of people cutting down towers. Now, that doesn't fall under do no harm, cause no loss. But when it comes down to a decision that we must weigh, is it our physiology that must take precedence, or is it the wealth of this empire that puts up these towers? Well, that's a decision of cause no harm, cause no loss that we have to assess on our own basis. And the people that are cutting down towers now are doing it only because that they're not being listened to. There's a French movement that's doing that. I'm not saying I advocate cutting down towers, but when push comes to shove and we are backed into a corner, then possibly look out.
I guess that's kind of the last question I had was Linda. She was saying, what do we do about these 5G towers? So you kind of answered it, maybe didn't answer it. Is there any other things? I was just having a conversation last night with my girlfriend. We're talking about, getting some land, maybe building some earth homes, some earth chips, and talking about building the structure. And she's saying concrete stops these frequencies from penetrating. And like you said, inside of the building, the concrete building, you aren't getting that. So we were thinking of, creating either cob or concrete or something to be able to keep any of these frequencies away. I know there is stuff like Oregon where people have some things. There's shungite. There's some people, use some materials to help them with some of these frequencies. Some people put little cell phone stickers that they have. Don't know whether they work or not, but, it was given to me and I just put it on my phone. So what are some things that you've been, kind of informed about what people can do to help protect themselves, or what they should do about these 5G towers?
Yeah, well, again, defining the situation is best. And from my understanding, you don't necessarily need concrete because they have a hard time just going through a standard construction wall. So have a little bit of faith in that process. I'm pretty sure that's correct. As far as the towers go, I have a sign out on my highway here as well, and it says, do not install 5G within 1,000 feet of this property. And I say, by common law, do no harm. And so everything will help in raising the awareness for the environment. So I have the sign on a busy highway here, and that is my right to life, liberty, and property. I have a right on this property to live freely and in health, and that's why I have the sign out front. And so, if and when the day comes when somebody decides they're going to be installing this within 1,000 feet of my property, well, then I will have to go out and confront that situation. And for now, the sign will have to suffice on that regard. And so, again, what to do with 5G towers that I think Laurie mentioned. I mean, we're being overrun by a major corporation that doesn't have our best interest at heart. So the best way to deal with that is going to be to raise awareness and continue to stand and promote the truth as best you can. And like I say, Arthur Furstenberg has his astounding presentation, 500 pages with thousands and thousands and thousands of references. a history of electricity and life. Being informed is very critical. Like I say, you can go to the website, and I'm not sure which tab it's on, but there's 33 symptoms that are there. And when humanity starts realizing that their symptoms is best being addressed by removing the cause rather than taking a symptomatic relief pill to get rid of the symptom, then we will be getting somewhere. And that day is coming. So again, have faith in that process, that that it's a bit of a problem that is difficult for us to immediately handle. But again, put the signs out and make your claim to life, liberty, and property known to others, that you will no longer tolerate or consent to damaging situations that are being imposed upon you. And when enough of us get to that stage, then we make serious change. And so we start with ourselves and make ourselves the best we can be, and then move forward.
One thing I remember, Stephen Garvey, he was from the National Citizens Alliance, who was out with the meters. He's a meter guy, 5G guy, and doing this all the time. He was saying that the legal limit for this radiation, which was, Canada standard or whatever, he says it's so high that your arm would literally be on fire, and that's would be the acceptable limit of this potential radiation. And that's why they're all under the legal limits, but it's set so high that, that they're allowed to, create this, frequency chaos, because it's set at a point which it actually causes physical destruction of the human body. And I think that's maybe a place where we need to maybe focus some attention on, is bringing those legal limits down, in order to protect people from these towers, opposed to, taking them down.
Yeah, I like to go a little bit further back than that. I mean, I did start out in, like I said, telecommunications, and I only lasted 2 years, and I was guided to remove myself from that situation. What I thought my whole life that was a waste of time, me taking that training and going through that for only 2 years worth of service in it, I now realize that was a situation that probably saved me in the end. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for the information that I got during that training to help me assess what's going on today. And so, yeah, the legal limits in Canada and the US is either 10 or 20,000 times higher than what it should be. And so this again is a manipulation of financial resources to impose a situation on humanity. And now, of course, they've got us all hooked on this. No less than the younger generation, who are glued to their phones morning, day, and night. And so yeah, that's a situation that again is a part of the tragic element of our current society. But we just have to have faith that the emergence of truth and understanding is going to prevail in the end. And we must continue with that procedure to bring forth the truth.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to share about your website? We have scrolling at the bottom. Is there anything that you wanted to wrap us up here with? Because this was great information, and I'm glad you're able to spend some time here with us on the Missing Link.
Yeah, I'm happy to be part of it, and I appreciate what you're doing and all the other millions of people, many of whom are listening to you right now in proceeding forward. I just wish to let people know that possibly whatever you have been told your whole life that has diminished your position as an all-powerful sovereign son of the Creator is something that we need to move through and to assess, and we need to assume that position, that we are all equals and have a right to be here on this planet. And so I encourage everybody to stand firmly with their own truth and with their right to life, liberty, and property, and have the faith and confidence that procedure is really all that is needed. Like I said, there is no fight. This is not a fight. This is simply ignoring the ridiculous comments of a few talking heads from the WHO and the WEF and Gates and the rest of them. We really only just need to ignore what they're doing and realize that the filter down of the nefariousness of that will eventually come to for everybody to realize, whether they be police officers or nurses or doctors or whatever, that the truth in the end will prevail, and many are waking up to that now.
No, I do want to, Linda just mentioned something, so I did want to touch on this before we end this. So, because I think this is really important. So she's saying, how do you tell the difference between ascension symptoms and radiation poisoning? Are ascension symptoms a farce? So a lot of people are feeling these different symptoms. A lot of people are feeling different things. They're saying it's coming. Oh, this is part of ascension. We're going to 5D. This is ascension. But, you know, there's other people are out there saying that's one of the biggest travesties, that people are talking and making light of the poisoning, making light of the frequencies that are harming people, calling them ascension symptoms, making people believe that that's just normal, you know, that we're going through, opposed to we are being attacked. We are being attacked by the frequencies and in the air and in the waters and the foods and the medications, the injection. We're being attacked by so many different ways, and people are trying to slough that off and just make it like, oh yeah, we're just ascending. So these symptoms are just normal, that you're going through these physical ailments that you're going through, you know, and not looking at maybe the root cause of some of this stuff that the reason why they're feeling these symptoms.
Yeah, that's a great point. I have heard of the ascension systems, and my wife and I are fairly clean living now that we have our own garden. We grow our own stuff. We don't eat meat anymore, or very little dairy. But it's important. The overriding factor here is that there is a lot of distraction, like there's so much stuff out there that is distractive. And if we can't actually confirm it with our own, you know, intuition and our own know-how, then it may be best put on the back burner, you know. And so it's all great to believe that there's ascension systems, symptoms, and that we are ascending. You know, I kind of intuitively register that may be the truth. But other than that, if you do download the 33 symptoms that Arthur Furstenberg has provided for us, and if you have taken the steps to remove any electromagnetic radiation from your life as best you can, well, then that narrows the field down as far as you assessing what may be occurring in your life. And so if you can rule out the 33 symptoms and effects by electromagnetic radiation, then yeah, it brings a little more clarity to the situation.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you. Thanks a lot. If I ever come by that way, I'll definitely stop by and say hi, give you a big hug, and just see what your you know, your thing is about. I like to travel a lot. I haven't done a lot of traveling these last few years just because of the craziness, but and we're in the hopes to be doing some more traveling. So I definitely love to come see you and meet you in person.
Yeah, hugs are free. Yeah,
and electromagnetic, like they're actually healing. They're beneficial. I love hugs.
Yeah, that's the way to go. And so you're in Calgary now, you said?
I'm between Calgary and Edmonton. My girlfriend's in Edmonton. I'm in Calgary.
Okay.
So I'm back I'll between a lot. We've got some friends and family that's in Vernon and Kelowna, so we try to go there every year and stuff. So
yeah,
you said you're not too far from there, so maybe we could always pop down and take the south route back if we're going, and you know, only that far.
Yeah, sounds good. We'd love to see you. Yeah, it's great to be a part of the South Okanagan and to be able to present information for any who may be appreciating it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. May the source be with you, Dave. Appreciate, anybody that, like I said, I'm in alignment with, that's, looking to, expose truth, and then it's not indoctrinated with this agenda. We all, have been indoctrinated in our lives, but anyone speaking out against it has my full respect, no matter if they got tattoos on their neck or not. I'm in alignment with that. So thanks for being you, a beautiful soul. Thanks everybody for all your likes, comments, hearts, shares, and stars. We appreciate any support you can give the Missing Link. I'm your host, Jesse Howell. We've got one more Missing Link today at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Alexander Astor. He's a musician, good guy. He does his little lives every day. Oh, a question, Dave. Someone said, are you on Facebook? And how could they reach you if they needed to contact you?
If you go to the Truth Center, you'll find information there, whether you want to join a Saturday night Zoom session. We have Zooms every other Saturday called the Bringers of Love. And you'll also see the BitChute information on the Truth Center website there at the One-Eyed Budgie. So yeah, there's information to contact through that for sure.
So no Facebook?
We have the One-Eyed Budgie on Facebook, more as the gift shop. We don't put a lot of Truth Center information on that. It's just the marketing for the gift shop itself.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks a lot, Dave. We'll see you later on the Missing Link. Please type any comments, any questions, any comments about the live if you wanted to share. I'm Jesse Howell, your host of the Missing Link, and we'll see you later on today on the Missing Link. Bye, everyone. Love you all.
Thanks, Jesse. Love you.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye now.